Alright people, it's time to hop to it in this edition of Mad Freehands. Step 1, get comfortable. Before jumping into things, you need to have stability. We wear gloves just so we can hold the miniature rather than buying some sort of fancy holding stick. You don't want those oily hands touching your paintwork. Now, when it comes to freehand, the most important thing is to find the main shapes. For this one, we identified the main shape as the curvature of the back, a reverse S shape of sorts. To get an idea of the width, we followed the main body out to the hands with some thinner paint so that it was fairly faint. Think light pencil sketching, it's kind of the same thing. Always block things in lightly because they're really easy to correct or replace if you happen to make a mistake. Then, once we have it visualized a little bit better, we can block in those main shapes with some more opaque paint. As you can see, there are certain times when longer strokes can be really effective, like the long S shape of the tail. Or sometimes, the shorter strokes might be more effective, like picking out little areas, defining or perfecting certain lines, or when you're highlighting or shading your freehand design. This particular design is fairly simple because it's quite graphical in nature, so we're keeping it relatively flat. This is a really easy thing to start with though if you don't have a lot of experience with doing freehand. Some of these examples, painted by Val, show something a bit more complex and much more similar to an actual painting. But we're going to cover those in a different video later. A common question is, what kind of paintbrushes do you guys use that have a tip like that? Honestly, almost any Kolinsky Sable brush will do, but right now we're pretty big fans of the Handover Series 66, which was recommended to us by a fellow painter, Mathieu Fontaine. Now, Val, who you see painting the shield on screen here, is a very highly trained painter, so you'll see that his skills with the brush feel quite natural. If you are not quite comfortable with holding the brush steady to do freehand, the only way to develop that is to practice. It's important after finishing the freehand to glaze over it with the surface of the object. This helps to tie it into the surface more. Without that glaze, it often stands out too much or feels a little bit cartoony or like it's separate from the object. And that's it! A finished freehand gryphon adorning his shield. That was the easy part. To learn more about our process, the other 3 miniatures we did, and a ton of other great stuff, check out issue 5 of the Illustrated Historical Artist. Available now! And as always, don't forget to follow the rabbit.